Peace. This is White Raptor News Ministries. All praise and glory to the Supreme Spirit of Truth, the Living One. There is none like the Supreme Spirit, the point of singularity, the All, the Almighty, the all you can see, the all you cannot see, the perpetual force that moves all things in place, the visible and invisible. Give praise to your Creator, folks. There's only one Supreme Creator. Anybody who's worshiping a trinity, multiple gods, gods next to God, putting names next to God, calling gods by other names, then you are in defiance of what the Supreme Spirit is telling you. You are spiritual beings born into a material world, and it's time for you to wake up from the illusion that has been placed over your eyes. I've been telling you for years now, years, that this plane of existence that we live in is a false reality. It's a false impression. It is not real. This world is an illusion. The material world is an illusion. You are not flesh and blood. You are a spirit trapped inside the flesh and blood. Satan, he's the flesh and blood. It's that simple. So we're here at 2 Samuel, chapter 13, Amnon and Tamar. In the course of time, Amnon, son of David, fell in love with Tamar, the beautiful sister of Absalom, son of David. Give me 1 second. So I had to look at this sentence and read it several times to make sure that what I was reading is what I was getting. Okay, because Amnon and both Absalom are sons of David, but Tamar is also the daughter. This was throwing me off. So Amnon and Absalom and Tamar are all siblings with one another, all sons and daughters of David. So you have a son Amnon, son of David, who fell in love with his sister. Very, very strange. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's in this plane of existence in the flesh, I guess you could fall in love with your sister. The thing that I'm pointing to here is, when did incest come to an end? Because clearly a lot of incest is going on in the Bible when it comes to the Israelites. Now, maybe in the creation story that, incest had to take place in order for the children of Israel to grow. And then I think to myself, well, Adam and Eve were never meant to fornicate with one another. They weren't meant to lay down with one another. They were spiritual beings. It wasn't until after they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil that they began having children. And the only way that Israel could grow at that point in time is if the siblings of Adam and Eve were all laying down with one another, in which case that would be incest, and that makes no sense at all to me. But it does make sense to me that there's two races of people that were created, and that Adam and Eve had children, and then those children may have strayed and went into the cities and towns of the Samaritans. Then you don't have the incest that's going on. Otherwise, you could also look at the children of God as pure bloods. The Gentile, when a pure blood lays down with a mixed blood being a blue blood, and the children of Israel being red bloods, because their blood is of the living. This is why we have, when blood, the oxygen is taken from the blood as it courses through the veins, and it returns to the heart to get oxygen from the lungs. This is blue blood. This is, before that, who's to say whether or not that nothing but living blood pumped and coursed through our arteries? It's only science and the World Health Organization that have trained us into this reality to make you think that the flesh is real when the flesh isn't real. Just something to consider. Amnon became so obsessed with his sister Tamar that he made himself ill. She was a virgin, and it seemed impossible for him to do anything to her. Now Amnon had an advisor named Jonadab, son of Shemaiah, David's brother. Jonadab was a very shrewd man. He asked Amnon, "Why do you, the king's son, look so haggard morning after morning? Won't you tell me?" Amnon said to him, "I'm in love with Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister." Why wouldn't he just say here? Why has he got to say my brother Absalom? Sister. It's his sister, too. So you see the way that this Bible's written? It's kind of wishy-washy. Why wouldn't he say, Amnon said to him, "I'm in love with my sister"? Instead, he tries to misdirect you by telling you my brother Absalom's sister. Well, it's his sister too. And this is not that I agree with everything that's written, because you got to understand that the Gentiles' hands have been placed on this book, and everything that speaks of the prophets of Israel makes them sound like the worst kind of people that were ever created. Not to stray or anything from my lesson, but to make ends meet, and to speak frankly, images of Charisma Carpenter. This is my sister. She's a movie star. All right? And when I was in my early 20s and stuff, and she was a young girl, just becoming into an adulthood, well, she looks like she's done her lips right here. That's a god-awful picture of her. This is a better picture of her. But my sister, she's an actress, and not only is she an actress, she's a micromanager. She's an evil person, man. She truly is an evil person. But in our youth, when she was probably 20 or so, 21, 22, and I was in my 30s, early 30s, 30, 31. We're 8.5 years apart from one another. Hell, how many times have I heard people say, well, if you wasn't my sister, I would sleep with you. If you wasn't my brother, yeah, I would lay down with him. Well, that's the way that it is in this plane of existence. The flesh is a hard thing to deal with. Now, would I ever even consider today laying down with my sister? The thought of it doesn't even cross my mind. In fact, I can't stand this woman. This is my blood, my sister. And she is an evil, evil woman who sold herself to Hollywood. Just that simple. So when I read this stuff here about a brother wanting to lay down with his sister, it doesn't really weigh too heavy on my heart, because incest is something that had to take place in the beginning of the creation story with the sons of man. It had to. And then you can't forget that when Cain slays his brother Abel, and if you look at the word Cain and Abel and you put them together, what do you have? You have cannibal. Because this plane of existence is all magic with wordcraft. We're under a spell with the wordcraft. You see, I was so humble in my destruction of my life in the last relationship that I was in. I fell to my knees and I laid down flat, prostrate, arms extended, legs extended, whining and screaming and crying for the truth. And in that moment, folks, you must understand that a download came upon me. Our brains are simply antennas to the spiritual world. And these downloads can come to you in just such a quick little second. And then all of a sudden, something inside of our brain, which was downloaded from the mind, because the brain and the mind are two different things. The brain is flesh. The brain is not spiritual. Okay? The mind is spiritual. the brain is flesh. And the brain is what is used as an antenna to the spiritual world. Go to bed and pretend to be ill, Jonadab said. So now he's giving direction to Absalom, or excuse me, Amnon, how to win his sister. When your father comes to see you, say to him, I would like my sister Tamar to come and give me something to eat. Let her prepare the food in my sight, so I may watch her and then eat it from her hand. So Amnon laid down and pretended to be ill. Pretended to be ill. Does that sound like a righteous person that's doing something with deceit? Also, when did all of a sudden incest become a terrible thing? What year, what time, what plane, what existence? I'm just asking real questions. Okay? So, when did the law all of a sudden say, not to engage in these things? Because I'm 30% of the way through this Bible, folks, and I haven't ever heard anything that the Lord Supreme has okayed this kind of behavior for Israel to lay down with brothers and sisters among them. Even though I'm pretty sure that it happened, it existed, and a lot of brothers and sisters were, I don't know, for sake of another word, fornicating with one another. It's that simple. David sent word to Tamar at the palace, go to the house of your brother Amnon and prepare some food for him. So Tamar went to the house of her brother Amnon, who was lying down. She took some dough, kneaded it, made the bread in his sight, and baked it. Then she took the pan and served him the bread, but he refused to eat. Send everyone out of here, Amnon said. So everyone left him. Then Amnon said to Tamar, bring me the food here into my bedroom, so I may eat from your hand. And Tamar took the bread she had prepared and brought it to her brother Amnon in his bedroom. But when she took it to him to eat, he grabbed her and said, come to bed with me, my sister. No, my brother, she said to him, don't force me. Such a thing should not be done in Israel. Well, I would have to say that such a thing has been done from the very beginning of creation. In fact, like the movie Gladiator, the two main characters in that here, let me see. These two here, Lucilla and Commodus, this is brother and sister, and Joaquin Phoenix, the role that he's playing with Commodus, wants to lay down with his sister. It's just, in this plane of existence, people do it. Now, I don't want to stray from the lesson here or anything, but I must say, when I was in my sins and my transgressions, I watched a lot of pornography. While I was doing my dope, when I was drinking, when I was doing all those things, I was lost in the declination of my soul being sucked up from that evil, that transgression of evil, that lustful thought, that it consumed me. I'm telling you, if you do drugs or anything like that, then you will eventually be consumed in lust thoughts. And it doesn't matter who it is. Brothers, sisters, daughters, all of that. Whether you act on it or not is one thing. I don't think, in the Bible it says that if you lust for somebody, then you might as well have raped them, you might as well have laid down with them. It's the exact same thing. I don't agree with that. There's a difference between me wanting to rob a bank or thinking that I want to rob a bank and then acting out and going inside of that bank and robbing it. Okay, you see my point here? Just because I think, man, I'd like to have so much money inside of that bank then. I could care less about money today. Let me be very plain and clear on that. Money is not anything other than, for me, a means to survive, period. We're in a slave world. We all have to work. But there's a big difference between me thinking I'd like to rob a bank to get the money and then going in with the action and robbing a bank. I don't see how a person could be judged the same way for that thought. It just doesn't make any sense to me. We're all carnal beings. We all have a beast in us, and we all have to fight against that beast. This is what it means for us to destroy, to kill the beast that is within. Okay? We all have this beast that is within us. So when people think, when they have impure thoughts and they're not willing to speak those thoughts out or share those thoughts with others, or they think that they're better than you, inside their own brains, their own minds, they have the same carnal thoughts that all of us have. We all are susceptible to them, and admitting that, you don't have to admit it like I'm admitting it, but admitting it to yourself, that there's a problem with it, rather than acting out on it, are two different things. So she says, don't do this. This should not be done in Israel. Don't do this wicked thing. It's a wicked thing for a brother to lay down with his sister. Now I ask you, this is a forced issue. Don't force me, she's saying. What if it was consensual in the brothers and sisters? Oh, and let me get back to the point that I was making about the pornography. That everything that you watch on pornography, and I'm not telling you to go and look, but I'm telling you that all of the captions, all of the titles that they write in these videos, and it's indoctrination, it's warping your mind, is brother sleeps with his sister, brother sleeps with his mother, dad takes his daughter. It's all that stuff. It's all an abomination. That's what they're pushing. They push that stuff in pornography, and it warps the mind. If you start watching enough pornography, the next thing you know, you're having thoughts of your sister, you're having thoughts of if you're a daughter, you're having thoughts of your brother and stuff. If you're watching these types of videos, okay, they're all meant to indoctrinate you into having these carnal, coarse thoughts that run through your head. I just wanted to finish that because I strayed from what my point was with the pornography. So it's that beast that's within us that you have to crush yourself. What about me? Where could I get rid of my disgrace? And what about you? You would be like one of the wicked fools in Israel? Please speak to the king. He will not keep me from being married to you. But he refused to listen to her, and since he was stronger than he raped her. He rapes his sister. And what else do they talk about in politics and all this stuff, and what they push on the television about abortion and stuff? Fathers who impregnate their children. Brothers that impregnate their sisters. Okay, this is what I'm gathering from what I'm reading right here, and this is what I'm gathering from politics, what they try shoving down your throat. What's my position on a parent, a father, that rapes his daughter and impregnates her? Should that daughter abort? This is my position. Is it right or is it wrong? I don't know. And what I don't know is far better for me than to pretend or believe that, hey, I have a belief. This is my belief. I believe that if a father rapes his daughter, that the daughter should go ahead and have the child. And this world here trains us, no. It's her body, her choice. If she was impregnated from her father or from a brother, then she shouldn't have to carry the child. So my position here is, and the only way that I can speak from a spiritual view, is to say this: two wrongs don't make a right. The father that rapes a child is a rotten piece of cow dung and needs to have his blood pour out on the ground. I absolutely agree. But the daughter that aborts a child is aborting a soul. Okay? From the very moment that that seed enters into the womb and touches that egg, there is a penetration of light. That light is what we are. We are light beings, souls. So when a mother has an abortion, she kills the soul, whether it's a baby in the womb or whether it's from the moment of conception. And two wrongs don't make a right. That's my position. If it's right or wrong, I don't know. This world is duality, and everybody is going to have their own views, and there's nothing ever you can say or do that all people on this plane of existence will come into unison and unity with one another. But let me be very clear. A father that rapes his own daughter should have his head cut from his shoulders and placed on a pole. He should have it carved from his heart. If none of those things happen, then he should be imprisoned the rest of his life. And a daughter that aborts a child or kills, because that's what you're doing, you're killing a child inside of the womb, should have the exact same thing. She should be imprisoned the rest of her life. Now, that's just my opinion, and opinions are like assholes, and assholes all stink. So, I mean, don't get all ruffled feathered, because that's my position and where I stand. But two rights don't make a wrong. Excuse me, two wrongs don't make a right. So now David, one of the greatest kings of Israel, one of his sons raped his daughter. What kind of parent would that be? And I mean, I don't buy into the whole thing. Look, I'm a parent. If I had an older son and my daughter came to me, which more than likely they wouldn't. Believe me, if a daughter's raped by the son and it was true rape and it wasn't consensual, more than likely the daughter isn't going to talk to you about it, because that's the way this system works for some reason. She's not going to come to dad and say, Dad, for fear that dad would say, well, what did you do? Did you try to seduce him? Because that's the way this shithole is, man. This is why women don't openly speak out about rape, because for some reason they feel that they're the cause or they're the reason for it happening. Now, let me say that if you are a very attractive woman and you're out at a club and you're sleeping with one guy one night, another guy another night, and this guy next week, and you got a high body count, and you can just putting it out there, and people see that you're nothing but a lush at the bar, and that you're a home wrecker, and that you sleep with married men, and you sleep with multiple men, and you don't care what the age is, you're just a Babylon hoe, and somebody rapes you, that's a punishment being brought upon you from the Spirit. Because the Spirit says, hey, don't fornicate. So how's he going to correct you from your fornications? He's going to eventually bring somebody, maybe not right away, but eventually he's going to bring somebody into your life that ends up raping you. They're going to take you home. You're going to say, no, I don't want to do this, and too bad. You already took the guy home. You thought you wanted to lay down with him, but then you changed your mind. You see, women, you can't take a man home from a bar and then change your mind. That's going to lead to rape. It's that simple. So Amnon raped his sister. Then Amnon hated her with intense hatred. In fact, he hated her more than he loved her. Amnon said to her, "Get up and get out." Wow. So his love for the woman, wow, if that isn't duality, I couldn't explain to you any better in proof of what it is you're reading right there. He loved her so much that he was ill, And then once he raped her, but what do you think, who do you really think he hated? He hated himself at that moment because he realized that he caved in to his carnal wants and desires. And then after the act is done and over with, he realized probably at that point in time, I could have any woman as the king's son. I could have had any concubine. I could have probably, within the walls of the city, he could have chose many others. So I think this is more of a guilt, and that he wasn't facing his own guilt. No, she said to him, sending me away would be a greater wrong than what you have already done to me. Is this not a mind-blowing chapter? Wow. But he refused to listen to her. And folks, I might add that this is, look, right here. Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, Bible Hub. So here we are, and this is the Lord that's speaking. Remember, the Lord Yahweh. Some call him Yah, some call him Yahuwah. I will bless those who bless you. I will bless those Gentile who bless you, Israel. And I will curse those Gentile who curse you, Israel. And all the families of the earth will be blessed through you. Blessed through a man who rapes his sister. This is an Israelite, and this is what we're taught. This is what the Bible's telling us. That the only way that a Gentile can find salvation is through an Israelite. Yet, the Spirit tells us none can deliver from his hand. The Spirit tells us that we shall place no mediator between us and the Supreme Spirit. So, I really don't understand the parable that says that we shall be, those that bless you shall be blessed, and those that curse you will be cursed. Okay, I understand blessing Israel. I understand that concept. I really, truly do. What I don't understand is that Jesus, as we've been taught in Christianity, which I don't support, was a messenger and also a mediator. So here at 1 Timothy 2:5, it tells us, for there is one God, and there is one mediator between God and man, the man Christ Jesus. There is one mediator. Now this is the mediator for the Christian gods, for the Christians. Jesus. Number one, Jesus isn't even his name. Okay, so we're reading from Matthew 1:21. We'll start at 20 and read down. But after he had pondered these things, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to embrace Mary as your wife, for the one conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. Hold on. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said to the prophet. This is Matthew 1:23. Behold, the virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel. Okay, look. This is Matthew 1:23. And then this is Matthew 1:21. So which is it, folks? Are you going to call the son that supposedly was sent by the Holy Spirit, are you going to call him Jesus? Or are you going to call him Emmanuel? Because this is how I break down the Bible. This is why it takes ears to hear. It takes eyes to see. In order to see the truth, then you must remove the scales from your eyes. My dad's in there listening to Family Feud, and he had that volume up. It was blurring me out. Anyways, so Jesus said at that instant something like scales fell from Sal's eyes and his sight was restored. Okay. He got up and was baptized. Okay. I don't believe that Sal got up and was baptized. Thus far in the entire Bible that I've been reading in the Old Testament, has any of the prophets ever been baptized? This is the New Testament. So you have writers 3,000 years later talking about Israel being baptized. So this is what I mean about add-ons in the Bible. Let me give you another example of an add-on. This is an add-on. Unto us a child is born. The child that's born that we're talking about, this is Yeshua. Okay? Unto us a child is born, and then this is the add-on. Unto us a son is given. Why can't this parable just plainly read, for unto us a child is born, and the governments will be upon his shoulders? Because I'm trying to teach in this reality, duality exists, just like this here. This plane of existence is duality, folks. So it is written, first man, Adam, became a living being. This is the Adam that was created on the 6th day of creation. The last Adam, a life-giving spirit. Two different Adams. One was created on the 6th day, which has everything to do with the Revelations 666. The other one was created later in chapter 2, verse 7 of the Bible, where the Lord molds man from the dust of the earth and breathes into his nostrils the breath of life, making him a life-giving spirit. Duality exists. So, unto us a child is born is the star God, Jesus Christ Superstar. This one right here, 12:1. And a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, which is sun worship, with the moon under her feet, moon worship, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and crying out in pain and agony of giving birth. The great sign that appears in heaven is who? That's the Son, Jesus Christ Superstar. That's the Son that's given. Unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. Child is born, Yeshua, born of this world. Unto us a son is given, the spiritual infiltration, Jesus Christ Superstar. And the governments will be upon Jesus Christ Superstar's shoulders. And he, Jesus Christ Superstar, will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace. Hold on. Prince of Peace? Yeah. I just let my cat in and she's crying for some attention, huh? Yes, you are. John 12:31 tells us, now judgment is upon the world. Now the prince of this world will be cast out. Now some will say the prince of this world is Satan, or should I say the serpent. Yes, Mama. I'm in the middle of something right now, babies. Okay? So the priest, the prince of this world shall be cast out. And this is the Prince of Peace. A prince. Jesus is the prince. Okay? Satan is also known as a prince. I've been sharing with you guys for a long time now. Jeremiah chapter 14 verse 2, Bible Hub. That's the wrong one. I think it's Isaiah 14:12 Bible Hub. How you have fallen from heaven, O day star, son of the dawn. Day star, look at that. Let me grab a pen here real quick. The day star is the morning star, the shining one from Hala, the morning star. Lucifer's the morning star, son of the dawn. Son, S-O-N, of the dawn, which is the dawn, the sun, S-U-N. You have been cut down to the ground, O destroyer of nations. Satan, Lucifer, the destroyer. Over here, King James Bible tells you the name. This is why it's important to read from different versions so that you have the context of what's being said in the scriptures. This is what gives me all my context, folks, because I don't always understand what these parables are saying. But if you read through enough of these translations here in these different books, eventually one of them's going to pop out and slap you in the face, and you're going to go, oh, that's what it means. So here we have Lucifer, who's the son of the morning, how thou has been cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations. Who are the nations? Okay, the nations are the Gentile nations, or guess what? Duality exists. This could be the 12 tribes of Israel. Satan weakened the 12 tribes of Israel. But I guess the best way to figure this out is right here. The nations are the Gentile nations. So it was Satan that weakened the Gentile nations, which are also a troop of animals, or a flight of locusts, and that would be these right here. Images of troops marching in ranks. These are your flights of locusts. These are the beasts of the field, each according to their kinds. The United Nations are each according to their kinds. Doesn't matter. Ukraine, Russia, America, Brits, Israel, they are those in Israel today, let me be clear, not the true Israelites. The true Israelites are a nation of people with their faces black to the ground. So after he laid down with his sister, he hated her even the more. But he refused to listen to her. He called his personal servant and said, "Get this woman out of my sight," and bolt the door after her. So his servant put her out and bolted the door after her. She was wearing an ornate robe, for this was the kind of garment the virgin daughters of the kings wore. Tamar put ashes on her head and tore the ornate robe she was wearing. She put her hands on her head and went away, weeping aloud as she went. I couldn't imagine how horrifying something like that would have been for a sister to go through. You know, have a brother that supposedly loves you back then in the day, rape you, and then the man that first of all, folks, let me ask you a question. How can you rape somebody and call that love? Yeah, I'll wait for the answer on that. I'll pause the video and wait. Okay, after 5 minutes, I see that I didn't get any responses. Okay. Her brother Absalom said to her, "Has that Amnon, your brother, been with you? Be quiet for now, my sister. He is your brother. Don't take this thing to heart." And Tamar lived in her brother's Absalom's house, a desolate woman. When King David heard all this, he was furious. And Absalom never said a word to Amnon, neither good or bad. He hated Amnon because he was this disgrace to his sister. 2 years later, Absalom kills Amnon. When Absalom's sheep shearers were at Baal Hazor, near the border of Ephraim's, he invited all the king's sons to come there. Absalom went to the king and said, "Your servant has had shears come. Will the king and his attendants please join me?" "No, my son," the king replied. "All of us should not go. We would only be a burden to you." Although Absalom urged him, he still refused to go, but gave him his blessings. Then Absalom, if not pleased, "Let my brother Amnon come with us." The king asked him, "Why should he go with you?" But Absalom urged him. So he sent with him Amnon and the rest of the king's sons. Absalom ordered his men, "Listen, when Amnon is in high spirits from drinking wine, and I say to you, 'Strike Amnon down,' then kill him. Don't be afraid. Haven't I given you this order? Be strong and brave." So Absalom's men did to Amnon what Absalom had ordered. Then all the king's sons got up, mounted their mules, and fled. Again, and here we are at a spot where I say, two wrongs don't make a right. And the Bible tells us plainly in the beginning, coming off of the ark, that if by man's hands, and this law was for Israel, it wasn't for the Gentile, that if by man's hands you shed blood, then your own blood shall be shed by another Israelite's hands. That's the law, that's the credence that was put in place from the Lord. While they were on their way, the report came to David, "Absalom has struck down all the king's sons. Not one of them is left." The king stood up, tore his clothes, and lay down on the ground, and all his attendants stood by with their clothes torn. But Jonadab, son of Shimeah, David's brother, said, "My lord should not think that they killed all the princes. Only Amnon is dead. This has been Absalom's express intention even since the day Amnon raped his sister Tamar. My lord, the king should not be concerned about the report that all the king's sons are dead. Only Amnon is dead." Meanwhile, Absalom had fled. Now the men standing watch looked up and saw many people on the road west of him, coming down the side of the hill. The watchmen went out and told the king, "I see men in the direction of Horonaim, on the side of the hill." Jonadab said to the king, "See, the king's sons have come. It has happened just as your servant said." As he finished speaking, the king's son came in, wailing loudly. The king too and all his attendants wept bitterly. Absalom fled and went to Talmai, son of Ammihud, the king of Geshur. But King David mourned many days for his son. Give me a second, my cat is hissing. Absalom fled and went to Talmai, son of Ammihud, the king of Geshur. But King David mourned many days for his son. After Absalom fled and went to Geshur, he stayed there 3 years, and King David longed to go to Absalom, for he was consoled concerning Amnon's death. You know what? This chapter here was quite a an interesting chapter. You know, we all have our thoughts. I think, as I've said in many of my lessons, that we need to drop our belief system, stop believing in stuff, and go on what you know. And if you don't know it, it takes a bigger man to admit that he doesn't know something than to give some bullshit answer. Anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful evening. This is White Raptor News Ministries.